So when I started studying the law of attraction, I studied for personal healing. I've studied the law of attraction, subconscious mind, all types of things such as that. So the one thing that I have done is gotten really, really, really in touch with my spirituality. Now, don't confuse spirituality with religion. Two totally different things. Religion is what I grew up in. Religion had me thinking that God was this big, huge, larger than life person who sat up in the clouds, and Jesus sat to his right hand and or left, however, and kept record of good things was a tick mark, I'm going to heaven, tick mark towards my total to go to heaven, and bad things was my tick mark to go to hell. And for the longest time, that is the way that I was reared. I'm Southern, so not all Southern people, but at least my family was very religious. And so to step outside of that and to understand about frequencies and energies and the universe and all of these things felt like took a long time for me to step outside of the religious doctrine that I had been taught, because it was etched, it was embedded in my DNA. From as far as I can remember, I remember being 3-4 years old, giving a Easter speech, so to speak, and I could barely talk, I could barely remember it, but I did it. And so religion was very much so a part of who I was. And to be able to break away from those doctrines was very, very hard for me. I went through a identity shift almost, because we were taught, and you can call the universe whatever, you can, the divine, the infinite, the universe, I call it God, but still knowing that energies and frequencies and the laws of things like reciprocity and attraction and all of those things are actual things. I was not brought up and I was not reared that those were actual things. So as I learned and I developed into, the woman that I am right now, and in all of the things, as I broke away from the religious doctrine and understood my own spirituality and forged a relationship, and I call it a relationship because it's just as deep and it's just as important as any other relationship in my life, a relationship with my creator, my life shifted. And the reason that it shifted is because I no longer beat myself up on every single turn when I didn't do anything perfect. And I think a part of the perfectionism in me can be tied to my religious teaching. And there's nothing wrong. I am in a space and have been in a space where you do whatever makes you feel good. I don't judge. There's not room for me to judge. There's no reason for me to judge. I want to see you and everyone else live the very best version of their life, being the very best version of themselves in the very best of circumstances, times, and outcomes. So I don't judge. However you see fit to live the life that you have been assigned in this time, this era, whether you believe that you're going to be reincarnated, whether you believe that your soul, your physical body dies and your soul goes to heaven, whatever you believe. I'm not here to judge it. But what I can say is that teaching and that doctrine, I will go out on a limb to say, is one of the reasons, maybe not the main, but one of the reasons that as Black women in any type of leadership role and or Black women in any type of role do not or have not associated our worth with value that we bring to the world. So I'm going to tear that apart for you. So what I mean when I say that is that there are, and systemically, I'm not here to argue racism and all of these things. We all know systemically there are things that, or tariffs, so to speak, that have been placed upon African Americans that we are still struggling to this point to pay. And there's no doubt, and I'm not here to really argue that point. What I am here to say is that there are a lot of things that have been embedded in us and rooted in us and embedded in our DNA that causes us to not truly value ourselves and to set ourselves or to set our worth for what it is. So, for instance, and this is just statistically, and I'm actually going to check the actual numbers because I like to have numbers, but this is ballpark. African American women are the highest educated race of women in the country, okay? Without a doubt. However, statistically, African American women make almost 60% less than their white male counterparts. Now, is a part of that systemic? By all means. System generated things have been, again, tariffs have been placed on African American people, not just women. However, when an organization looks at you as not only, number one, a second-class citizen, but number two, the lower specimen of a human female, there is no wonder that Black women are underpaid. Now, how do you resolve that? Because I am a person of action. I am a person, we can complain all day, but if you're not going to do anything about it, there's no need to complain. So what do we do about that? The one thing that I recommend to everyone that I talk to, that I see, because self-worth is one of those things where you wear it like a scarlet letter. If you have, or when you walk and do not walk in your self-worth, that is something that everyone can see. Why do you attract the same type of man who is unfaithful or who is abusive, physically, emotionally, mentally? Why do you attract those things? The law of attraction says that when you put focus on something, that is what you attract and what you draw to you. And I truly believe that. I have read the doctrine. I have read the information and I have absorbed the information. But most importantly, I have implemented the information into my life. The law of attraction, the law of gravity, those are things just like you know that when you step out of bed, unless you're an astronaut and you're on the moon, but when you step out of bed, you trust that the law of gravity is going to keep you mounted on the floor. When you step out of bed, you never think, oh, what if the law of gravity is not working? You never say that to yourself. And the reason you don't say that to yourself is because it's proven and you know it. So just like the law of gravity makes all the sense in the world to me, I may not know exactly how it operates or but I know that it works. I know that when I step out of bed, I am going to be grounded on the floor. I know when I step outside, I'm not going to float up into the air like a helium balloon. I know those things because the law of gravity has been proven to me time and time again. The law of attraction is no different. So you attract to you what you focus on. And so in focusing on your worth or questioning and doubting that you actually contribute to the organization, what you feel you contribute is the reason why you're stuck in the place that you're stuck. So it's simple to ask for a raise. It's simple to gather your receipts as to how you've contributed. It's simple to list and have a ledger of your academic accomplishments and your licenses and certifications and all of those things. However, until you know from here what you're truly worth, that is the hardest conversation you will ever have, is to put a worth to yourself. Because everything that you've done doesn't add up in your subconscious to what you're asking for in your physical. So one of the things that I have been in a space, and again, I've been following this work for some time. I do not proclaim myself to be an expert by any means whatsoever. I am so very taken aback because I learned something about my spirituality and subconscious mind and subconscious programming and frequencies and energies and all of those things every day. And I think that's one of the drawing points for me, because every single day I can find something, some literature that's written or something that boggles my mind even further. But the one thing that I can say is, since I've started into these types of studies, into this study, is that I've implemented those things in my life. I am a huge protector of my energy. I'm a huge protector of my energy. Even people that I love, I have had to protect and guard my energy from them and not allow them to implement their energies on me. That has meant stepping back from some people, loving people where they are, not being afraid to say to someone that I don't have the energy to deal with this or to deal with you in this moment. One thing that I have learned is that I will say to you, I don't like your energy. The one thing that I've noticed, and it doesn't matter how much self-development I do, how much personal development I do, how much learning, growth, any of those things. The one thing that I'm sure it's not just me, but and I believe I read a book by T.D. Jakes, and the very first chapter, he talks about people bringing up who you used to be. That every time they see you, they talk about who you were and the person that you were. And for that reason, that very reason, is the reason that I distance myself from people who are not able to grow or do not have a growth mentality and keep me bonded to what I used to be. Um, I have a very good friend, and we have been friends for years. I can't even count how many years that we've been friends, over 20. And each time, we don't talk very often, but each time that I talk to this individual, the first thing they say is, well, I know you. And I laugh. I'm laughing, not because it's funny, but I'm laughing because nothing what do they say, grinds my gears worse than that. You haven't been in my undivided presence in 20 years, yet you think you know me. That's just like saying an embryo, an egg, after 20 years is going to be that very same egg. No growth, no development, nothing's changed. It's going to be that very same egg. If that be the case, we would all be embryos. If we never grew, we never developed, we never changed anything, nothing ever went different, we would all still be embryos. So I tend to distance myself from this friend, love this person to the moon and back. However, in order to stay in my place of growth, in order to stay in my energetic frequencies of peace and just, I don't know, sheer, I mean, don't get me wrong, I am a spiritual being living a human experience. And I heard someone say that, and it's so very true. Everything about me is spiritual in this human body. Do I believe that people are bad? I don't believe that. I believe that people are inherently good, and there are circumstances, there are spiritual bodies, things such as that change that in people. Leave me on my cloud, leave me in my bubble, leave me with my unicorns and fairy dust playing. That's what I choose, but that's what I choose to believe. I choose to believe that people aren't bad. I choose to, inherently, I choose to believe that I have the ability to love you before I ever have the ability to hate you. I choose to believe that everything that is happening to me or will happen to me, or however, has already been predetermined. I do believe that, or I won't say predetermined, that it has been predetermined, but I have the ability to affect those things. I do believe that the person that I choose to be each day has a direct impact on the life that I live. I choose to believe that the way that I perceive certain situations definitely determine the outcome. And I'll give you an example. Let's say I'm driving down the street, okay, and a car comes up beside me very, very fast and halts on brakes, okay? Everything is about perception. I can choose to think that, oh my God, he's going to attack me, or this person is angry, or however. I can choose to think that way. Or I can choose to look at this same car, same person, same situation, and say, oh my God, or oh my goodness, what is happening to them? How can I help them? All different perceptions of the same situation. Whether or not you choose to believe the very best of a person or the very worst of a person dictates all of those things. And the reason that I even have these types of conversations is because the negativity and your false perception of a situation, or a negative perception of a situation, shaped so many areas in my life. And I have made a conscious choice to not allow that anymore. I've made a conscious choice for that not to be the story that I write or the story that I read aloud for myself. I've made a conscious choice. I choose every day to be happy. Do I have sad moments? Of course. Do I get upset? Of course. I'm human. I'm living. I'm a human being. I have emotions. I have senses. I see, I hear, I touch, I taste, I feel, all of those things. So I'm human. So do I ever get angry? Hell yeah, I get angry. Do I get upset, disappointed? All of the regular human emotions, I experience those. But when I'm done experiencing those, I choose, make a conscious choice to be happy. I make a conscious choice to infuse happiness in every situation. Even in a situation where I'm angry, I stop. And this is learned. This is a learned trait. This is a tool that I have learned to exercise because I did not always have this. I don't react. A lot of people tend to think that I don't care, or I've gotten the word nonchalant. That word has been used to describe me in recent years. And it's not that I'm nonchalant. I refuse to accept anyone else's label of me. I just choose not to accept those. You can feel however you want to feel. You can think however you want to think. But that is not something that I have to agree with or adapt. So I refuse to take anyone else's interpretation and or anyone else's label for me. I just choose not to do that. Just like I choose not to drink and drive, just like I choose not to, I don't know, drink liquid plumber. I make a choice. I make a conscious choice, and the conscious choice in this stage of my life, in this era of my life, Kim 2.0, I choose not to accept anyone's label of me, which, I was telling the story earlier about my friend. I choose not to allow you or anyone to place me in a place or put me back in a place where I've grown from, to put me back in a place that I've cried through, to put me back in a place where I have prayed my way out of. I just refuse. And in that adage, or having that attitude, you lose people. People fall off. I personally don't believe that anything happens by chance. Circumstances change, but nothing is by chance. I think that everything that you have perceived or wanted in your life, you have in some way, some shape, some form, drawn that onto you. Agree with me or not, it's a very humbling feeling to know that at my age now,